Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another speed build. And today we are going to be building this Dark Fairies treehouse as seen in the inspiration image over here to the right. And I found this on Pinterest. It just looks really cool, and I thought it would look really nice in Ravenwood if I kind of made it a little bit darker and went a different route than my last fairy build, which was a castle. It was very bright, it was very naturey, it was right in Henford-on-Bagley, so it had that like greenish tone to it regardless, just because of the world. But I really wanted to build for a dark fairy too. I wanted to do a light and a dark variation. So I hope that you enjoy this one. If you do, please be sure to like and subscribe and let me know in the comment section what you think or what you'd like to see in the future. But I'm gonna just get down to the build. So here we used a lot of rounded walls, which is always a nightmare, but I thought that I would just try one more time to see if I could make it work. And I also surrounded this build with this kind of scraggly tree that I think came with Debug and Live Edit from Outdoor Retreat. I did use a fair amount of Outdoor Retreat for this. I also used these logs from Outdoor Retreat and then took Toolmod and just rotated them up and down so that I could put them on the outside of the house in certain spots. I did a few of them and then set them to the side to use later because I didn't know how many I would want, but I just wanted them like ready to go. So that's my little stock area over there. And then I moved them throughout the outside of the build. I wanted this house to look like it was carved from a tree, not that it was placed on top of a tree or built on top of a tree. So I wanted to use some roots and some different pieces of wood and lots of vining plants that you would see coming off of a tree. I hope that that kind of translates pretty well. I also used the trim from Life and Death because it gives a little bit more space for said plants. And I also pulled out kind of like a canopy looking piece that comes in Debug and Live Edit, and I tried to use Toolmod to size it down and angle it, and I liked how that looked, so set that also to the side to use on top of the roof to give a viney look to the roof as well. The outside of the house has the wallpaper from Spooky Day, which I thought was interesting. I don't normally use that, so I thought it looked really cool, kind of like tree bark. Obviously the pillars and the railing and the fence are from Horse Ranch because they are made of logs. This is a tree, you get it. It kind of all goes together pretty well. And then more use of Toolmod to kind of make some posts for holding up the staircase, and just some base game foundation trim to kind of give that illusion of, you know, all being one piece. And then the inside pieces that are like cut out of the quote unquote tree are from Outdoor Retreat as well, and they just kind of look like logs or planks. I thought that looked pretty cool. Use some base game windows with the Horse Ranch shutters, and then I use the Jungle Adventure flooring all throughout this build because it kind of has a green tint to it and it's slightly shiny but not too shiny, so I wanted to kind of replicate the look of some real raw wood pieces like it was carved. Also the use of a lot of vines, different kinds of vines from either Live Edit and Debug or from the Build By catalog. Also some from vampires because they have kind of like rooty looking things, and I thought that made a lot of sense. And I also used this kind of bush tree thing in a couple spots, so in the front and then also off to the side near where this root is, to kind of climb up the side and also hide where the trim abruptly ends at an angle. I thought that was a little weird, but I couldn't get it to square off the way that I wanted it to. So this tree kind of fits in that space. And then up top here, we're going to do another rounded piece. That's going to be another upper deck piece, so I just kind of replicated the fencing up here as well. That's going to be where the crystal room goes. She's going to have a little crystal making station up here, jewelry making station. I thought it would look really nice, and I imagine that she would use those crystal properties to enhance her magic or her skills in some way, shape, or form. Also used a double roof so that there's one kind of roof wallpaper on one side and one kind on the other. I thought that made a lot of sense. Also the use of corbels instead of spandrels here in the front I thought was very important because I couldn't use spandrels necessarily. They kind of wanted to square off, but the corbels I could use at any angle I wanted, especially with Toolmod. So I thought that would look nice. I used that on all of the balcony spaces as well. And then we are going to be adding lots of plants to the outside of the build. We have a lot of like flat grass pieces, also some vines, some plants from werewolves that kind of look like they're coming out of the side of the building, and also a bunch of different trees and like wavy things and bushes to hide some trims. Also used this roof trim that came with Love Struck, I believe. I thought they gave like an interesting kind of shape and textured like to the roof trim a little bit. Also going to take this tree and just size it up so it kind of matches up with this root. That way it looks like it's all one piece and it's not just like three pieces I put together. Here's some more of these bushes and also this like bush tree thing kind of all squished together to look like one solid piece. And then I move this canopy piece with tool mod and rotate it so that it looks like it's fully covering the roof. I thought that it just gave a little bit more whimsy to the build, and it definitely helps to replicate the inspiration image right there. I think the inspiration image is technically like a sculpture or maybe like a birdhouse or a fairy house you'd put out in your garden or something, but I thought it looked perfect for this type of thing. So if you're looking for inspiration for builds like this, I highly suggest either going on Pinterest or Google and searching like fairy garden houses or just fairy houses. You're going to find like little sculptures and stuff more than you're going to find actual fairy houses, obviously, or you'll find Sims builds. But it's very helpful to kind of get some inspiration and figure out where you want to go. Now that inspiration image is gone, so we're going to start working on the interior. This room where the ladder is ends up being the bedroom. I pull out the bed from Realm of Magic, and then I just change the swatch to this one with the purple and black and the moons and stars, and I just thought it looked really cool and whimsical. Obviously some more base game windows, and I think those other big windows may be from Strangerville. I don't know for sure though, don't quote me on it. And then we're going to come down here. That little weird round half room thing ends up being the bathroom. So I pulled out a door from Realm of Magic. I think I end up changing the swatch to that though. And I also have the toilet and sink from Realm of Magic going in the bathroom. I just kind of pulled them out. I didn't do the bathroom till a little bit later. I also pulled out the tub that came from Get Famous because it comes in a nice black swatch, and I kind of pushed it in that corner for now, but it ends up getting rearranged later. We're back outside though, and we're going to move these logs around where I wanted them to be because there were some cuts in the trim from just moving the rooms around a little bit, and I couldn't get them to close, so those were perfect for hiding those little trim gaps. And then some more greenery going on the outside. I just used like those flat like floor tile pieces of greenery and flowers just to kind of fill up that space, and then I could throw some other flowers and plants on top of them. I thought that would be like an easy route to go because I was just playing around at this point. I didn't know what I was going for. I was just going to see what worked and then go from there. But we have a bunch of bush flowers, and we have some wildflowers, and we have some flowers from romantic garden stuff, and also some of this like tall grass. And then I think I used some vines over there as well. Out here in the front, we're using these stepping stones from Riviera Retreat. I thought they looked really nice, and I kind of put them at like an angle, like a little windy path, and just position them just so they would kind of give that shape that I was going for. And then later on I end up grabbing a fence piece, but that is from Debug and Live Edit instead of a regular fence. I also used the werewolves mailbox and also the high school years trash can out front, but you won't see that on camera because I decided that at the last minute. And then we have a bunch more of these little pieces going in. I used the triangular pieces to hide these like curves and kind of cover those up before I threw on more plants. I also really love that lavender, so I made sure to include that. That lavender is also from Outdoor Retreat, and it's one of my favorite plants, so very excited that it came with that pack because I already used so much of it. I figured might as well just use some more. I am notorious for using almost every single pack in every build that I make. I can't be helped, and I get all caught up in what I'm doing and totally forget what packs I'm even using till I watch it back. So I apologize that I am the way that I am. I can't help myself. But we have some more plants going in, and also this vine that I had to use tool mod to like size down and move where I wanted it to be because it was poking through on the inside and it just wasn't hanging quite right on the outside. I did eventually figure it out, and it worked out just fine. but we also have some more windows going in here. I really wanted to use as many windows as possible, and it was tough because of the rounded walls, but I did that to myself. So hopefully there's enough light in there for you. We also have a little crystal tree garden out back. There's the charging plate and some other big plots to plant things in. I guess like I think I put mandrake and like the morel mushrooms and the regular mushrooms, plants that I thought kind of lent themselves to being magical or something you could use in like potions or tinctures or, you know, remedies, something. So I thought that kind of gave a little bit of like magic and darkness to the build, if she could be harvesting herbs and vegetables that she can use later on to either help people or maybe mess with people a little bit. We also have lots of lavender going in, lots more vines. You're just going to see repetition of vines and grass and like other plants and stuff, including that like Grimbrosia plant. I put that everywhere. And then in the living room, we are using the fireplace and the couch and the TV from Bella Goth's kit, because they are very like, I don't know what you'd call them. They're kind of gothic, but not really. And I really like that green tone with the red blanket over the top. The little footstool is from Love Struck. It just matched really well. And then in the kitchen, we have the counters and the stove and the range hood from Life and Death, as well as the dishwasher, because I just thought they looked really nice. The fridge from Base Game I thought was nice because it's black with the gold fixtures and hinges, and I thought that matched the washing machine really well. And then we have our rug going in from Life and Death, as well as the wallpaper with the owls and the skulls on them. I couldn't help myself. I love owls, so I threw them on there as well. I don't know if I've used that wallpaper yet in the build, so thought I'd use it in here. Seemed fitting. And we also have a lovely desk from Crystal Creations with the typewriter computer on it from Cottage Living. And then I'm getting rid of the lights so I can put on some pretty wall lights from Life and Death as well. They didn't really give off enough light though, so I had to also use a ceiling chandelier from that same pack, and there's a quilt hanging on the wall as well. I think I ended up putting a light above that eventually because, again, needed some more light in here. And then the trash can, the money trash can, the new one we got, and wanted to make sure I included that in the kitchen. And then here in the bathroom, we're going to add some more windows, and then I believe I also use those leaf curtains from Bloomin' Rooms because they're just so good. I threw them in here as well. And the Home Chef Hustle wallpaper in this very dark swatch. There's also like a little pantry cabinet thing for towels. This light fixture from Movie Hangout stuff in this purple and black swatch I thought worked really nicely. And I also made sure that I threw in our bathroom clutter stuff. So you'll see the toilet paper roll, there's the plunger, and then on the sink I do end up putting the toothpaste cup and the soap pump in there. So never fear, I will never forget those things. I love those things so much. And then in the bedroom over here we have more Realm of Magic going in with the dresser, and the mirror is from, I believe, Growing Together. The end table is from Life and Death as well, but I end up changing the entire orientation of this room over to the side because I wanted more space for a vanity table later on. Up here at the back of the crystal room, I made sure to cover that with more of the flooring, and then I used a rounded roof piece because I really liked how that kind of like replicated a tree trunk or maybe like a root of some kind. I used the werewolves roof swatch with the moss on it to kind of get that point across, and some more plants, of course, just to kind of blend it in with the rest of the build, extending that roof piece over a little bit, and then just adding a little more vines and some of these hollyhocks because I thought they looked good. Up here they add a little bit of height to the flowers. And then up here we have just a little outer deck, so I wanted to throw some more activities. We have a little bonsai tree, and there's a stool for sitting down. And then in here in our crystal room, obviously I just pulled out everything that I could from the Crystal Creations stuff pack, and we have the bookshelf and a display case and the crafting table. Over to this side I do eventually end up putting a like console table with some little doodads on it, but we also have our lovely fern plant and then the tools up on the wall. Here's that table with all of the accessories and the tool sets and the jewelry box, and then there's also a star chart on the wall and a crystal chart on the wall. because I thought those are like little handy things to have when you're working on crystals. The wallpaper is from Businesses and Hobbies. It's just like that wood paneling. I thought it looked really nice. Everything's very wooden up here. And another tall window from Strangerville to kind of break it up a little bit and give a little more light to the room itself. And then we have a ceiling light from For Rent. I just like how it looks in here, so I tried to add as many lights as possible. This room is just very, very dark, so I did try to lighten that up a little bit. I don't mind it being kind of dark because it is like a moody, dark fairy build, but I want you to be able to see what you're doing. And then out here in the front, we're going to add a lot of low-lying plants from Cottage Living and also Base Game. We have a lot of ferns. We have lavender. I tried to keep it, you know, all cohesive and making sense. We also have some like bushes of flowers, and then here's that very curved fence piece, and this is from Outdoor Retreat as well in Debug and Live Edit. So I just used Tool Mod to rotate it exactly how I wanted it and put it in a way that it is like framing the path. I also add some terrain paint, of course. I add more of that later on, but I just wanted to make sure the terrain paint looked okay here because the world is such like a weird green color. I wanted to make sure it translated. We also have our vanity table finally. That's from Bella Gott's kit, and then the chairs from Life and Death. More of these moonflower lights going everywhere. There's one on the end table, and I ended up putting one on the dresser as well, just because they are very whimsical and I thought that they looked really, really nice. And then we are going to be cluttering up this dresser. So we have a cowplant terrarium and also some jewelry from the Everyday Clutter kit. We have some purple tomes. We have the little book with like the ink well on it, and that came from Werewolves because I think it looks really, really nice there. Maybe she does enjoy writing letters. I just kind of positioned all those with move objects because they never go where I want them to. And we added the rug from Realm of Magic. I pulled out this artwork from Realm of Magic as well. That ends up getting moved downstairs. I thought it would look nicer just above the desk to kind of occupy some wall space. We have these like flowers on the wall from Werewolves, and then we have these tarot card posters from Life and Death, which did inspire me eventually to add a deck of tarot cards to her end table, as well as a journal. I thought that that would be a nice touch. We also have a chest for storage and some more of these plants. These plants are from Werewolves out on the upper level deck. And then here's some lighting going in from Life and Death as well. More of these cool lanterns. This is just a different one than I have used before. And then the little oil lamp from Crystal Creations I thought would look nice in here. Here's her end table just getting all cluttered up. She also has a music box on her end table. And again, I just like that. It just looks nice. It looks whimsical and fairy and fun. So we have another bookshelf and then another display table with some candles and a vase. And then behind that vase, I put another poster of a tarot card. Also included the hourglass that came as an unlockable with the Grim Reaper career, just because she's obviously not a Grim Reaper, but I think she is fascinated by the afterlife. So we have that in there for her as well. Up here in the crystal room, we are going to be cluttering up this bookshelf with a crystal terrarium and a jewelry box. And then I end up putting this bust to display necklaces on the very bottom. And of course I had to give a little bit of, you know, gems and metals to start with. I pulled those out of Debug and Live Edit for the Crystal Creations pack. And I just shoved them in that case there so that you have some to start with other than what's growing in the backyard. And of course more lighting because I had to. Again, the darkness is just getting to me a little bit. I needed more light in that room. And then out on the very upper deck we are going to throw in some more plants. We have some base game ones. We have this flower vase with the petals that have fallen off it. That's from the Artist Studio kit. And then we have my favorite little base game potted plants that I just put in pairs in almost every single build, so they are here on the upper deck as well, and I think they look really nice. I do end up putting a little citrus tree from the Bloomin' Rooms pack or kit, and also a ottoman to sit on out here as well. And then we are going to add another rug from Life and Death out here on the upper deck. I just thought it looked really nice. And then another thing that I threw in at the last minute were these window boxes from Werewolves. So I thought they looked really cool, kind of like they were put together, you know, in the arts and craftsy kind of way, like let me put together what I have. Maybe she had an old dresser. I don't know. It looked really nice. And then just replacing some windows, adding some mushrooms and also some clumps of grass. And then I will be almost done with the landscaping. I also added some rocks. I'm just not sure if I put that in the footage itself, but there are some rocks in between the flowers to kind of occupy that space. But that is it for the outside. Now we're going to finish up on the inside, adding a little dining table. I just changed it from 3-seaters to 2-seater because there wasn't a whole lot of space, and a candle from Lovestruck. I did not clutter up the counters because there's only 2, and I want you to be able to cook everything pretty easily and not obstructed. And then in the bathroom, we're adding some artwork from the Bella Goth kit. I also end up adding a very large mirror from Lovestruck behind the tub and adding some more curtains to it to kind of make the room seem bigger and give like a little interest to that wall while you're taking a very luxurious jet bath. I don't know. So you won't see that here, but you'll see it in the screenshots. And then here are our last window boxes going in and one last view of our home. And here's the Sim enjoying reading a book. I believe she was reading the Thanatology book. So she does read and take a few notes on, you know, past Sims that are crossed over that she can study. I think she's fascinated by that. And then here in the kitchen, just cooking up something. I forget what I had her cook. I think it was like macaroni and cheese or something. I'm not 100%. And then she's eating it in her tiny little dining room. I also had the welcome wagon here, and everybody was able to get around the lot just fine. So glad I had full opportunity to play test everything, and it does all work very nicely. And here's a view of the house at dawn. The sun had just started to come up. We were seeing the fog rolling in. You can see the rocks now in the landscape, and also the mailbox and the trash can. I think everything just looks so pretty. There's also fairy lights in the back, so added bonus. But thank you so much for joining me here today. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see next, or if you enjoyed this, or what you'd like to see, you know, with the new pack coming up. And please be sure to like and subscribe if you have not already. And thank you so much for joining me here today, guys. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.